We have with us today, we've got Rafaela DeSantis, Micah Mitchell from Membarium, and Dobbin Buck from Get You Wired. As you may or may not know, Dobbin won, and Get You Wired, his team won the Infusionsoft Partner of the Year award last week at PartnerCon. So excited to have him here with the Membarium folks to share some really, really cool stuff that they're doing with membership sites. And this is going to be a good one today, you guys. So strap in, get ready. Guys, we've got Rafaela, Micah, and Dobbin here to talk to us about membership sites. Pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, welcome, you guys. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Yeah, and congratulations again, Dobbin, on the award last week. Very, very much deserved.
Oh, thank you very much. It was such an incredible surprise, and we just had a blast at PartnerCon. I actually finally got a good night's sleep after about a week and a half last night. I was so wound up at PartnerCon and got home, and I had guests in for the weekend, so last night was actually the first night I was able to like really relax since the week. So I'm so happy to be here with you and with Micah and Rafaela. This is awesome.
Nice, nice. So Micah, what's this all about? Take us down the path of wonderment here.
Yeah, thank you. So if I can share my screen here, and then Dobbin and I are going to he's going to help comment in kind of whenever I ask him for his thoughts on some things. And we've got a lot of data knowing that everyone here is certified consultants. Yeah, and I'm like Dobbin, I've been just really kind of excited since PartnerCon. It was, if anyone missed it, it was a lot of fun. It was one of the best, if not probably the best. It was just a ton of fun. So what this is about today is it's about how you guys can grow your business and expand your services with membership sites in Infusionsoft. So even though I'm from Membarium, a lot of this stuff you can do with other platforms, you can do in general, and I just really hope it's useful, and that's why Dobbin's here as well, is because, he's obviously a very successful partner, and, just any insights or wisdom he can share along the way I'm going to ask for. So kind of bear with me here, a little bit of background, I promise it's relevant. Just for those of you who don't know me, I've been using Infusion about 10 years. I got it as a user, then did some consulting, then kind of started doing some custom coding, which turned into products. Also did some info products and training. So even though now I focus on Membarium, I focus on a product. And Dobbin, I might be getting a little bit of an echo from you, if you can self-mute here and there. There we go, cool. Anyways, even though I now focus on Membarium, I just, bring that up to say I've walked, many miles in your shoes as far as doing, app sales, doing consulting, and I never scaled it like Dobbin did, so I'll have kind of a different perspective. But, I kind of want to talk about why membership sites are great if you're already doing infusion consulting or selling, if you're not doing membership site stuff yet, basically, how you can get into that and why. And then if you are doing them already, how to add more value to your clients so they can make more, and then also you can earn more. Your company can make more revenue as well. I'll cover some little known features you can capitalize on as a partner to differentiate yourself so you can kind of build your own, they're called custom shortcodes, but in a way it's templates for things that you can then use to speed up the process you build at, or have something proprietary within the membership site community if you're interested in that. Excuse me. We'll also talk about how to get your free license and get support from us. But real quick, I just want to talk about what do we mean by membership sites, because most people think of the real basic, I want to sell access to information and info product. And there is that. So, we are with Membarium, we're talking about WordPress and Infusionsoft. But generally speaking, people are doing this to sell courses, ebooks. You can have tiered membership levels if you want, as far as, gold, silver, bronze, or whatever that looks like. You can build a community area for clients. And keep in mind, not all these things have to be paid for. So sometimes people do this just as a value add for their clients. You can provide account management for clients as far as updating their profile, their payment information, paying invoices, and that kind of thing. You can also create a custom referral partner site. So you guys all know Infusionsoft, and you know the back end where referral partners need to log in to get their resources, you can actually create a custom resource area within Membarium where they can still get resources that are encoded with their referral partner link. There's also internal team training. So I say something, and it's going to sound biased coming from me, of course, but I really do think every business can use a membership site. So when I talk about membership sites, it's because I'm talking about all these use cases, and pretty much any business could probably use a place, for example, for a client to update their account. It's pretty universal. But there's a bunch of other things you can do. So, and sorry, excuse me, sometimes I get a little nervous when I get on these things, but I'll mellow out in a minute here. So Membarium, for those of you who don't know, it's used and trusted by a lot of people who do a good job, you would say, with internet marketing. If you want the best, I think, I would go check out Digital Marketer. I just think they have good content, and also the way they sell it and everything is really cool. And, more to the point, your clients are going to want to buy something like that. Very often we get the call, Dobbin, you might get this too, of people saying, oh, I want it to be like Digital Marketer site, or like Jeff Walker's site, or whoever, right? So, just pointing out that it's not that hard to get there. WordPress is there. Membarium, Infusionsoft, you guys have the tools. And so we're just going to talk about some of the packages. Here's some things I wish I'd have known. So when I talked about kind of what I've done in the past, it was just to say, if I was still doing that same stuff instead of doing Membarium like I am now, I'd want to know what people really are trying to buy, in the sense of how they think about it. You want to sell hours or packages or a certain dollar amount, but they want to buy a return on their investment. They want to pay some money and get it back as quick as possible and then make money forever. So I wish I'd known how to break that up, how to sell it quickly, when to bill them, which I learned kind of early on, but just, upfront billing because of very clear expectations. And that's one of the big ones, is how to set expectations and how to build these sites differently. So I hope I'm hitting on, as we go through the content, I hope it answers some of these, or, gives you some info on those, and that it's useful. So, Dobbin, I just wonder, kind of what I was going to tell everyone is, you can show your clients all of these possibilities, if they don't know if a membership's right for them, or if you have a client who's good, who you want to offer something new to, you can think through these possibilities for them and present them to the client. But, there's a ton of different things they can use. And the internal team training is possibly one of the most valuable. People really underestimate how simple it is and how valuable it is to go in and say, let's just record your best salesperson on the phone a few times, and maybe they don't even know they're being recorded. You can get permission afterward, but saying you don't want it to be awkward, you want it to be natural, and put that in a site for all new salespeople. Let's record our customer service people. And I know it's like everyone knows to do it, just nobody does it. So I'm saying if you can offer that as a service, that's one little package you can sell. So, Dobbin, I wondered, of these, which ones do you most commonly get asked about, and are there any missing from the list?
Sure. Well, this is a rather comprehensive list in regards to what we do, but I'd like to speak to that internal training application for membership sites. And at Get You Wired, our preferred system is Membarium, and has been for a number of years. So just speaking for us personally as an Infusionsoft certified partner, as an example, we have, for new hires, we have 90 days of training that goes on. And for everybody that comes in to work with Get You Wired, they all need to understand Infusionsoft. They all need to understand marketing on a technical aspect and a strategic aspect. And for developers, we have tons of content that we've created that's very important for them to understand the foundations of how we code, of how we design WordPress, of how we slice WordPress, of how we integrate with Infusionsoft. I mean, hundreds of different things. And so what we've done as a company is we've created this membership site that ultimately, it not only guides new hires, but it makes very specific content that is for for their skill sets available to them. So at Get You Wired, we use a membership site for our early and somewhat for our ongoing training. With a lot of my clients as well, we've created training sites. So here's an example there have been several franchises we've worked with. So they want to make sure at each location that the training, the methodology, the culture, and everything is clearly reflecting the founding culture of the franchise. So we will have different levels of training. We will have the franchisee level training, the ownership training, management level training, and the the employee level training below the managers, which could be people running cash registers or whatever. One example that pops to my mind immediately is a national franchise for pet stores. They sell pets and they sell pet supplies and all of that. And so there's tons of different training that goes on to people to understanding different dog breeds, puppies, care of animals, and all these things that people need to know, plus associated products with that. So membership sites have allowed us to really segment by personnel type and then provide very specific training. And I think that that is the way to go. Like I said, we use it at Get You Wired, and I've seen this many, many, many times utilized. One thing that I'm seeing a lot that is sort of referenced here, but is that traditionally what we've seen is, hey, I've got this digital product, or I've got this, I've got these ebooks, this video series, this training course, or whatever that I'm putting in a membership site, and I want to charge people to get into it. And sometimes it's continuity, so sometimes we're giving them everything at once, and sometimes we're dripping them as they're moving through a course. Sometimes we have certifications attached to getting through different quizzes and aspects of courses. But what I'm seeing more and more is that my clients are wanting to put their freemium material inside of membership sites, and to be able to tightly regulate what people are seeing, when they're seeing it, how they're seeing it, and how much of it they're seeing it. So they're really inside of that, inside of the membership site, we're really able to gather a lot of information regarding what people are viewing, for how long they're viewing it, and all of that, because we have control of that environment. And I'm seeing it more and more applied to free content in this day and age. So it's really good. At Get You Wired, I would say at any given time, I probably have 7 or 8 Membarium projects going on at any time.
Gotcha. So, and I think you hit one of them I left off the list or didn't call out well enough, and that's the free stuff, the lead magnets, and using not just like, hey, here's a thing, but like you're saying, actually controlling timing and access, and then also feedback. You can see when they're watching and all that kind of stuff. So for everyone out there, here's an example of how to get started, because I know that sounds like a lot. And if you heard Ryan Dice, the PartnerCon before last, he talked about making a checklist. So real quick, when I say show your client these possibilities, you could easily just turn this slide into a checklist and say, oh, sorry, I bumped my mic, and say, hey, could your business benefit by offering some of what you know as an ebook or a course, free or paid? Could you benefit by having, a free level, a basic level, and a premium level, a tiered thing where people upsell? What about a community? Could your users use a community? And basically walk them through the list and then where to get started. And this is one of the things that I'm really interested in your take on some of these, Dobbin, because when I was putting myself kind of back in the mindset of, where I think most consultants or most ICPs are right now, I was thinking I want something to start with, right? And I want to make it very simple. So here's an example, everyone. You can take your client through the checklist and say, great, step 1 is this lean starter package. It's basically, we get WordPress going, we get your theme, we install Membarium, we create one simple membership campaign, and its real purpose is just to test that the connection is working. Can an Infusionsoft campaign generate a password and send a user an email so they can log in? And then you give them a short video. And so the point is, I would make this either these all separate line items or this a package. And here's an example of pricing. And I don't mean to be specific on the pricing, but just some thoughts on it for everyone. Which, by the way, I should mention, we almost every day get multiple requests for people who want membership sites built. And we as Membarium, we don't offer that service. So we're always pushing it out. So all I'm saying is, people are talking to us every day. I want this and this and this and this, and they have expectations of what they're going to pay, and they'll go out and talk to our partners and get pricing and quotes. and come back to us and say, I like this for this reason and that for that reason. So just some thoughts here. If it's a flat fee, your client is really paying for your other client's costs, meaning if I charge $497 for this, it's because maybe not this client, but some client along the way is going to have, some issue maybe with their hosting or something that I'm going to have to solve, and it's going to cost me more than I thought. Therefore, I have to price it higher than I expect, right? With hourly, it can be more fair, and you can give, estimates. You can just say, hey, it's hourly across the board, whatever we run into. It's just hourly, right? Possibly more depending on whatever, and you can give them estimates. I like to do kind of a hybrid, or that's usually what works, which is, hey, it's $197 if things go smoothly, meaning what I outlined there works the way it should. But if there's anything environmental, meaning your host, your other plugins, your theme, the fact that your webmaster hacked it 3 years ago, which you'd be amazed at how often we find weird stuff that the client did, forgot about, didn't know was there. So basically saying anything environmental or due to issues on the client's end, that's going to be an additional hourly rate. I can offer you this at my cheapest price, $197 for all the install and setup, but I don't know what's in there yet until I go in and do it, right? And then what I usually did to make, them feel better about that is I would say, anything on my end. So I say anything on your end, meaning you, the consultant. But I would just say anything on my end, if it's my learning curve, my mistake, whatever, I'll eat that, obviously. But if it's something out of my control on your end, then this hourly rate applies, so that's the agreement. But so this is just a foot in the door thing is what I'm saying here, because you can tell them, hey, look, here's all the stuff you can do, but you can't do any of that until you've had this basic thing happen. So as soon as that's done, for the low price, possibly $197 or whatever, you can figure it out. But honestly, that process can take as little as, 20 minutes if it goes smoothly. If it's rough, there's some padding built in. But after that lean starter package, and I'll just run through and show you some examples. And again, this is from my, usually I was doing consulting solo, so from my perspective, and then I'm really interested in, how Dobbin thinks about this as more of an agency. But the truth is with this lean package, real quick, we at Membarium, we can help them do that, meaning our support does include helping them get it installed, but we prefer there with a partner who can help them succeed overall, and we'll talk about other strategies there. So it's not just the install, it's that after that you can then go through that list and say, hey, which one of these are we going to execute on first, because which one of these pays you back the fastest, so that you can reinvest in the next phase of the project. And the reason I'm talking about it like this in phases is, often in my own experience, which I learned eventually how to prevent, but I see with consultants all the time that they have a hard time with a client because, maybe the scope wasn't defined well enough, but that's largely because the scope was bloated from the beginning. I want a membership site with gamification and a community attached is a pretty broad thing to say. So when I'm talking about, hey, which part should we go after next? Here's just some examples. So this is one chunk that if it were me, I would sell separately. And again, I'm not right for every situation, but just playing it safe, I'd say, okay, here's one thing we can do. We can set up 3 levels. We can add up to 50 pages within those levels and test the campaign to deliver those levels. Simple. No cancellation, no payment failure management, just one part, right? And then, sorry for my voice here, it's real scratchy, let me get a drink. I lost the mute button on the meeting, but that's one example. And then I would chunk this out separately and say payment failure example. I'm going to test the My Account related template pages. And for those of you who don't know, with Membarium, it will upload a bunch of template pages to WordPress for invoice management, subscriptions, credit card updates, stuff like that. So then you can say, I'll create payment failure process for up to 3 membership levels, a cancellation process for up to 3 levels, and then at the end I'll make you a video of a user buying, then failing, becoming a member again by paying, then canceling, real basic life cycle, not including necessarily upgrades at this point, because, the more things are attached to each other, the more parts of the process are attached to each other in the client's mind, the easier it is for them to say, oh, what about this situation and that situation? So, smaller bites is better for both of you. And I know I'm speaking to you, the consultant, but with all respect also to the client, because they if the scope is bloated and you have to finish the whole thing before they start realizing any value from it, they might run out of money. I don't know how many of you, I can raise my hand, have had a client who said, I'm totally focused on long-term and want to follow best practices. And then, halfway into the project, they want to know where the return is, right? So I'm saying get them returns quicker by chunking it out in smaller chunks, because this first chunk, hey, now you can sell membership levels. Selling it gets cash in the door and creates a reason to create this whole payment failure cancellation process. And you don't want to be messy. Obviously, if you can build them all, great. But if you have to chunk it out, you can go this way. And then, another separate upsell after that, meaning you can upsell your client on upselling their members. And it could include a widget for each level. And these widgets, when I say activated by user level, what I mean is if the person visiting the site is not logged in, they'll see a widget. If they are logged in as a free member, they'll see a different one. If they're logged in as a paid member, they'll see a different one that tries to upsell them to the premium service. So I'll make you these widgets, I'll make you these sales pages, I'll make you an order form for each level so that people can buy them. And in case someone has a credit card on file, I'll make you a one-click upsell for each level. And this is a little package where basically you're saying now, hey, let's take whatever you're doing and make it better. So get them some members first with this one, keep it tidy with this one, and then start growing them, right? And then you can expand. So then you can go to the fancier stuff, LearnDash, BuddyPress. But here again, I would chunk it out and I would say only offer the basic install and configuration as a step, because most likely you'll probably run into things you didn't think you were going to run into that are problems that you have to fix that might take time, whatever. So make sure and specify for this part there is no customization, so they understand customization is a separate thing. So I think that's all I have for like project kind of chunking out, and I'm just trying to give you some ideas, guys, of how you can convince a client to engage. Show them the options and possibilities. Get them a basic thing where they feel like they're in control. When I talk about show them a test of a user or show them a test of a life cycle, that's kind of what they're buying. They're buying the finished product. And I'm saying this from, the perspective now of a business owner who hires a lot of marketing consultants and, pays for a lot of Infusionsoft work. At the end of the day, if you build something and I don't know how to use it, it's not that valuable. But if you can build it and show me how to use it, I feel like I have an asset. So you can give them these little assets by doing little chunks, recording it and giving it to them, and that's, again, this is just one perspective, one idea, kind of on the very lean, minimum end. So Dobbin, sorry to go on forever, but what are your thoughts on, selling these projects and breaking them up?
Sure. Wow, you covered a lot of ground there. So what I'll share is my experience and how we do it. So generally, like with the initial setup, the install and all of that, that's sort of just, it's done. So just to give you an indication, with our hourly rate at Get You Wired, our standard hourly rate is $145. Sometimes that's interesting to people to know what other partners are charging. So ours is $145 an hour with the Membarium integration between Infusionsoft and WordPress. That sort of is just something that we do so much of this stuff, like my interns can do it. Actually an end user can actually do it, like you said, with, calling in and getting a little help. So it's not all that complex. Sometimes you do run into weird stuff, and it's great to have someone that knows what they're doing in that case. I took a look at the Membarium projects when you asked me to be on this yesterday over the last couple years, and interestingly enough, the gross revenue from Membarium projects when I isolated them was anywhere from around $6,000 to over $100,000, interestingly enough. So I am a huge fan of chunking. So people always come in and they have this vision of their membership site and they want this and this and this and this and this, and there's thousands of details between these thises and thises, and they certainly haven't figured those out in advance. So what I do generally with Membarium projects is that I will have them pay for a scoping process. So we get in, we interview, and we understand in detail what it is our clients want to accomplish. In most cases, we're bringing ideas and experience into the picture. So they've had some preconceived notion. Hopefully they've seen something cool like Ryan Dice's Membarium structure or whatever. Then it gives us something to sort of roll from. But many times we're showing them examples of our own stuff and then sort of reformulate their own vision and then chunk it and put it into phases. And a lot of times that could be, you know, different levels, different product offerings. Sometimes people will come to me and have 12 different products that they want to put in there. And so we really want to get a scope and get everything documented and understand everything that wants to go on. Because early on in membership site development, we would, you know, roll into a big project. And one thing is that as people see things, they want to change their mind and move things around and everything. And there's nothing worse than not being able to give someone a finished project, a product that they can monetize or start using. So it's ultimately configuring your chunking method, as Micah said, to quick wins. You know, how can we get in quickest to get people in utilizing it and reaping the rewards of this investment. Another interesting byproduct of a Membarium integration is that many times people are coming to me and they want to add it on to their existing website, okay, their existing WordPress website. And all of a sudden they start seeing what we're doing on the Membarium side, and it looks, you know, a lot better than what's going on the front-end marketing of their website. So we wind up getting a website complete rebuild deal out of it too. So that's another interesting byproduct, is that you're working in WordPress so you can extend yourself into other avenues as you go. You mentioned about one-click upsells and sales within the system. And one thing that I'm a big fan of, and you see in a lot of Membarium sites, is a sales dashboard. So when people log in, ultimately they have unlocked courses and locked courses. And ultimately on the locked courses on the dashboard, they can click on it, go to a sales page, learn about that product offering, and through a one-click upsell, purchase that additional product. And it's another great gateway for if you have events or other things that you want to announce to people that are logging into the membership site. It's where they're going always. They can see what they're getting, what they have, what they don't have yet, and upcoming events and stuff. So we try and leverage that a lot. One of the things that I've learned after tons and tons of this type of work is really scoping out these projects and really understanding what the client wants, documenting it, putting it in front of them, and have it signed off on. I like to keep to a plan, and if I can't keep to a plan, I can't help that small business succeed. It is not their intention to screw up the process or anything. They're humans. They do it naturally. So with our efficiencies and our documentations and our project management portal and keeping in close communication and really making sure that we understand what we're doing as we're moving through the chunking stages, if you will, has been really critical, because you gave an example of someone getting in and starting to develop something and running out of money. I want to have in written record as a certified partner that my project manager has warned them, you know, hey, if we can go down that path, but please understand that if we do, this is going to add this much more work to it. This is basic project management stuff, but it can really get out of hand in a membership site, because when you think about like a website build, you run into that, and there's a certain amount of creativity and scope changing and stuff like that. Well, for some reason inside of a membership site with clients, it goes all over the place, particularly one that's, you know, more involved with elements. So I really have, our team really works hard on that communication, scoping, detailing, and getting as much information. And this is the other thing to look out for, is the content collection. So it's many times you have deadlines and everything, and getting the content, the videos, whatever is going to be going inside of the membership site. I've seen that really bring a project to its needs. So we have very specific requirements. We hold people to it. And once again, very high level communication to make sure that, that we're keeping this together. And in the end, when you really approach it from an organized method, this is some really great work, and it really generates a lot of revenue. It does get you wired.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things you brought up that I think are really good points. I mean, for one, when we talk about managing expectations, it's like Dobbin says, it's not that they mean to cause some of these problems. It's just kind of part of the process, and more so than Infusionsoft, because I know doing Infusion consulting, you're always, for example, waiting for copy or whatever, graphics or something, to get it all done in the end, right? And with content, in a membership site, what I've always done, so here's kind of a little tip, it doesn't get around it, but I've always tried to make the pages so they could go live and not offend people, meaning I'll put video 1 instead of put video 1 here. Like instead of an internal note, something that if a client stumbled upon, they might think, oh, the video's missing, maybe it didn't play, versus, hey, this site's totally broken or it's in production. So I'll go through that way with the client, and meaning, even if they don't send me their 10 videos, I'll make those 10 pages. And at the end, just say, hey, whenever you're ready, go ahead and embed your videos on these pages, but I've tested how the user can get there. So, it's a little bit of help on the content side of things where you can help them, but with expectations, it's a double-edged sword. It's a beautiful thing to do membership sites because, as Dobbin said, it might spin into website work, it might spin into custom development, marketing work, all sorts of things can spin out of it. But the reason we're harping on setting expectations so much is because their mind and their expectations can also go in all those directions. Hey, there's a new WordPress plugin that does whatever, and I want my members to be able to use it, And to them, that's a perfectly reasonable request. And so setting the expectation up front, like here on this slide we're looking at right now, that bottom asterisk part is the most important part of this slide, for example, and probably most things, which is no customization or no changes or whatever, at least until it's done. And I know there's methods to allow clients to change or trade or whatever, but just saying as you do this membership site stuff, that's the reason we're talking about it, is there are so many possibilities. There's so many pieces of technology touching it. It's such a complex environment and different every time between their host, their version of WordPress, the version of all the plugins and themes they have, the customizations, etc. So I'll get off my stump, but just totally agree with Dobbin on all that. So I want to jump into a little bit of nerdiness, and it has a reason, so bear with me for 2 seconds. So just to explain shortcodes real quick to those of you who don't understand them, I'm going to hop over here. So here's a shortcode example. Sorry, this meeting things is kind of in the way. So memcontact is a shortcode, and basically when you put this example on your page in WordPress, it will show the person's first name. So pretty simple example, right? You can feed it any field you want, and it'll show that field, including custom fields. So that's an example of what a shortcode can do. It can merge in data. Another example, this is a shortcode which will divide the page up, and basically the part in square bracket doesn't show to the user, but based on the condition of them having these tags, it will show them the content. Else, meaning if they don't have those tags, it will show them this content. So this is what's happening when you look at those pages, as Dobbin mentioned, where you get to a sales dashboard and some things are open and some things are locked, right? So this is kind of the idea behind that. So what I want to show you when I say nerdiness, though, is the fun end of this. So what that looks like are custom shortcodes, and I think I've got a screenshot here. So here's an example. Let's do this for 2 seconds of what a custom shortcode can do. So what I'm saying is each of these blocks, you see those green blocks, there's a button on it, there's a check mark. Each of those blocks are a separate addition, you might say, of the same shortcode. And this screenshot I took as an admin just to show you what it looks like. But basically we made it so we could customize how these lay out with the green check mark and the word completed if they had completed it. And what's building that is a little piece of code like this. So this looks kind of like a mess. But if you break it out, what it's really saying is it's saying, hey, this is the short code, memc, whatever. And then there's attributes. What's the title? What's the completed tag? What image should we show? And what is the link? Where is this going? So these are really the variables. If you think of each one of these chunks right here, the variables are the title, where it clicks to, what's that background image, and what tag decides whether it's, available or done or whatever. So again, it's, this kind of thing that we're defining, and it gets merged in, and I told you it was nerdy, bear with me, it's only for a minute, but it gets merged into other code like this. So the things I define, you can see I'm defining a tag, I'm defining an image. The things I define get inserted. You can see that top arrow is completed tag. So basically that tag ID gets inserted there, and you can see that top line, it's actually inside of another shortcode. So what I'm saying is I can feed variables into a shortcode that itself contains a bunch of shortcodes to evaluate whatever I want. So this is what I was talking about earlier when I said you can develop some of these types of things yourself. So again, all this was made to create this guy here. But if I look at it in its most basic sense over here, this is what the custom shortcode looks like. I give it a name, and it tells me what the slug is. And then I can just define things. So the sky is color, and this little squiggly line thing is just the way we do it. But whatever you say here, then now I can go put that shortcode on a page. So here's where I call the shortcode by its name, and then I define the color equals blue. You could just as easily say number equals 3. And over here, I could say the number is, and then, do the whole syntax and merge in the number. So I want to show you that because as a consultant, if you go and you make, a really good login page, or you go and you make a good My Account page or whatever, whether it's related to a vertical or it's just something that you do a great job of, you can turn that into a custom shortcode. Membarium also has partials. But you could have that, and then whenever you get a client, you just go add the shortcode by copying and pasting what you have into here, updating it, and then you can go into their pages, and you can put, almost a program into their site yourself that's proprietary to you. So I just wanted to show you that on the nerdy end of things, and that it is really useful. I can't share the custom code for this one that we're talking about with you, but as we develop them, we'll send them out to you, more of them. That one's just for a particular client. And you can do the same thing. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys that real quick. And Dobbin, I wondered, do you guys use custom shortcodes or partials, or do you even know?
Yeah, certainly we use custom shortcodes. I mean, all of our programmers at this point, even our junior developers, are really adept at Membarium and of course at WordPress. So I mean, according to our customer needs and what we're doing within the system, we're flexing all over the place.
Gotcha. So we've only got, excuse me, a couple more minutes, and I just, if there's time for questions, wanted to leave that, but also just to let everybody know that you can get a free license of Membarium as an ICP. You just go to membarium.com/ICP, and you can use that for yourself if you're curious, or you can use it for a client. But yeah, we're happy to support you. So I've got more if we want to go into it, but I figured there'd probably be questions, and I've probably talked long enough already.
This is fantastic. We've got a couple questions here already. So David was asking, are there any issues with Membarium and the Genesis framework? So he's hosted on Synthesis, if that matters.
I don't know of any issues with Genesis. I kind of like Genesis. I don't know the Synthesis framework, so I can't speak to that.
Okay. Well, that sounds like no, there are not any issues that you know.
Right. No.
Cool. He also asked. He said, "Can you nest the if X shortcode?"
Oh, yes, you can. So there's an example down here of it being nested, and you can nest it multiple times. But here's number 2 inside of number 1, so you can get pretty fancy if you want.
Outstanding. Cool. Let's see here. Do you recommend setting up Membarium on its own subdomain or adding it to the main WordPress install?
So it's a little bit of client choice, and I'll answer, and then hopefully Dobbin has some insight. But I was going to say, some people, they want it on their main site so that they can, for example, just blog and then have half the blog for members only, right? And so Membarium has to be on your blog in order for it to cut that off and give access. But I'd say kind of a best practice really is to put it on a subdomain like members.yoursite.com. And the reason for that is you're going to want and need different plugins and potentially even a different theme for your members area than you do for your sales site. And so if you load all those plugins that you need for sales and all those plugins that you want for your members area on one site, it might get bogged down, versus if you separate it, both might be quicker. So that's kind of my take, is I would prefer to separate. It can simplify things, but then also you're running two environments. So it depends on the size of business and how comfortable they are with some of those trade-offs. But Dobbin, what do you think?
Sure, and I'd agree with that. We're spinning it both ways. A lot of times, and particularly what I'll say is with smaller systems, so systems that aren't very advanced or with a lot of additional functionality, and it's flowing with the aesthetic of the main page. There's just a close tie-in. We'll roll it on the main install, but really anything where we're getting crazy, we're definitely going to put it on a subdomain.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. You guys know better than I do, but yeah. So there you go. 3 votes for whatever works best, right? Cool. So Daniel has an interesting question, and yeah. So what are the biggest differences between Membarium and Customer Hub? I think you might have to limit this list to for time's sake.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, Customer Hub will host your content. So that's great for Customer Hub, meaning you can load your videos and audios and things to it. Membarium doesn't do that. So that's what's missing for the most part between Membarium and Customer Hub. But then on the positive side, Membarium lets you use your own domain. Since you're in WordPress, you can use, different WordPress plugins and themes. And it's basically, a lot more flexible and in your control and ownership, versus Customer Hub, which is super easy. And I think, honestly, great for beginners who don't want to deal with all that. If hopefully that kind of answers it. Otherwise, they're similar.
Yeah, yeah. I personally like the WordPress integration with Membarium, so that you're working. You can be working in an environment that is already being used by a majority of businesses and website owners out there. That's for me a big one. Andrew is asking if there's a 101 webinar on short codes, like some real beginner stuff.
That's a really good idea. I know that if you watch, and I would encourage anybody to go to our video tutorials page if you want to become familiar with it and watch a couple of these basics. In these, we do run across some short codes, but unfortunately, no, I don't have like a good just about short codes. But yeah, you'll see them in here and some examples of them working, but I'll put some together for that.
Cool, cool. Yeah, and there are probably thousands of ways to use short codes. But yeah, I think I know what he's getting at, just kind of like, what the heck is a short code and how does it work and why would I use one, kind of thing. That's great.
Yeah, gotcha.
Cool. Sue's asking if you can give a couple use case scenarios for the custom short codes. You kind of had some things with the color and number and all of that, but yeah, custom short codes. What are some good, maybe like the most common ways that you're seeing those used?
Yeah, so I would say the most common way is a design like this. So imagine I was in a membership area and these were the different courses. So a lot of this code you'd have to just dump on the page 9 times, right? There's 9 blocks, and a lot of that code is reusable. The differences are the titles, the links, the images, the colors. And so anytime you have something that you're going to iterate or do a bunch of, then you can use a custom shortcode to, instead of recopying the code, defining the variables. And it's not just, hey, I don't want a bunch of code on my page, bloating it up. It's actually then a lot more flexible, because if I want to go change, let's say, the size of these 9, instead of going and changing code in 9 places, I go change my shortcode and, just change the width, and all 9 adjust to the width. So a lot of membership navigation is what people will use custom shortcodes to build, meaning not just like the home page where you list all your courses, but occasionally inside the page where the lessons are listed, they'll do that. So we've done a couple pretty complex builds where there was PHP mixed in, meaning we were doing, custom stuff with the API, and it was kind of a parent-child thing where one user could see the usage data of other users. And we use custom shortcodes for that, because all that complex PHP code that will get mangled by an editor, I just put away in my custom shortcode and don't have to worry about it. And I just define the variables as I go. So just like I was doing here, now I'm dealing with very simple, and that's why it's called a shortcode, because it kind of is code, but not really. And this calls out to all my code. So I put sensitive code in there that's going to get mangled by an editor, especially for clients who like to use the editor. I put code that I'm going to need to use all over the place in there. And what I think is really easy, so here's another really common use case. You know how you can put a teaser on a page, or you could go in and protect a page and have a teaser? Well, you can use a custom shortcode to define all those teasers, so that if you have 50 pages and there's 50 teasers on those pages and you want to update all 50 at once, you just go update the custom shortcode. You could also do that with the partial, but with the custom shortcode you can always pass variables into it later if you want to. And with the variables, by the way, they're not required. So there's a lot of times you can do this where you can just put the shortcode blank, to do whatever you want to do. Or you can say, okay, I want to override it, so let me type in a variable to change how it's going to work. And that's why I'm saying, if you get in the habit of using these, then when you get to a new client site, the first time you build out a membership homepage, it might take you several hours, but the 5th time you do it, once you start using a custom shortcode for it, it's going to take you all of 5 minutes. You're going to say, okay, what are your titles and links and images? And let's go build the tags. There's your homepage. So it's an efficiency thing, but it's also a flexibility thing when you want to change things site-wide or shortcode-wide. Anywhere there's an instance of it, you can do that.
Very cool. Very cool. On the chunking, the project management and setting expectations, like you're talking about, Janelle's asking if you can give an idea, maybe some examples of pricing for those chunks. What are you seeing as being, I guess, kind of typical or reasonable based on the work required, time and energy typically required with those types of pieces? Is that kind of what you're looking for, Janelle? I'm guessing so.
Yeah. So, and Dobbin, I think your pricing might be different than what I would say, but trying to be pretty competitive and keep it simple. This one, for example, it's going to largely depend on the client, obviously. But if you said, hey, I can create, these 50 pages is the sticker, right? What's on those pages, whatever. But if you said, hey, I will, create the membership levels with the unique home pages per level, and I'll put the 50-page placeholders under that, and then you can fill in the content when you want, and it's as easy as copy-paste. That's probably where I'd leave this one, and then you could probably charge, another $500 for this because you're creating separate campaigns and doing the testing. And really, it's, to me anyways, when I build, it's the testing time. Like the setup of it is fairly basic. It's the testing and dealing with the environment, and the back and forth with the client, as Dobbin said, getting content's always kind of an issue, which you can possibly skirt by making placeholders for them. So, Dobbin, what do you think on this one if you had to just pick a number?
Sure. So when I think of chunking in respect to the way that we approach it, normally all chunks aren't created equally. So the first chunk is generally the most substantial chunk. So what I would consider in a chunk before I start anything is understanding what the, let's just say the long-term vision of the membership site is, because I don't want to create something that then I'm going to have to go and recreate. I want to create the environment or the wireframe that's going to be able to expand with the vision to begin with. But whether you're working in a theme or like we do, where we're doing custom design and slicing it and setting it all up ourselves, generally the first chunk would be all the design and all of the what we'll call the internal page templates. So we have our sales dashboard, we have our first-time welcome pages for each of the offerings, we have our unique home pages, as Micah described, and then all of the content pages. And generally, we want to try and make things to where we're reusing objects as much as possible across a variety of different courses and things like that. So the largest expense really with us at least goes into that initial setup, and then it can expand into this thing to where, hey, it's very easy to add additional courses, additional pages, and yes, they can, if they so please, they can be able to add their own content and participate in the building of their membership site. And with that, I don't really approach it from a here's this package type of deal, because with the design aesthetics or the unique needs of the clients, ultimately I have to approach that on a scope-by-scope basis. We're able to, having done so many of these, we're able to provide people with very reliable estimates in our scoping process, because we break things down. We know how long a page design takes, how long it takes for an engineer to slice that into WordPress. We know how long it takes to create the campaigns that control the system and all of that. Pricing is a really pricing of chunks, is very difficult for me to articulate because it changes from client to client. But the narrative around that with clients is that, hey, the great news is this. This first part is going to have the burden of the greatest expense, which, maybe, who knows, it could be anything. Let me just throw a rough number out of, in our case, maybe $6,000 or something like that for a variety of different page designs, slicing them, getting them into WordPress, and getting them ready for expansion in the membership. And that also would include Infusionsoft integration and testing and so forth. And then from there, we can very easily say, okay, each additional module or each additional course, that's X amount of pages, X amount of content long, is going to take, 14 hours if we do it for you. If we just set up the course and you enter in the content, then it's going to be 3 hours. And I'm speaking in generalities and a little bit ambiguously, but normally we're approaching it, we're getting the master plan in place and then gently expanding out of that.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable. Oh, sorry, I'm kind of faint. I was going to say I think that's really valuable insight, because obviously you're doing it and you're successful with it, but especially at the beginning when you talked about making sure you understand kind of their complete vision so that you are able to accommodate that, not just diving in. So yeah, I just want to step back and make that point as if you do chunk, you do want to take them back to this, here's all the possibilities, and have an idea of what they want, so that as you go through these chunks, you're kind of leaving those doors open. But, real quick, just to try to answer her question and do it as fast as possible, I'm going to throw out kind of guess numbers for some of these. And I totally respect Dobbin, saying answering a pricing question on this is difficult, because it really, really is. But I'll just throw out an idea just to give you guys kind of an area, right? So this one here, I would say this is between 500 and 1,000, because the credit card triggering and the emails and some of the stuff you do in here is a little bit tedious. So this one's probably bigger than that one, and maybe a better thing to do than putting prices on it is to say that, hey, this first step of just installation is probably half as big as the step to create 3 levels. So install is half as big as this, or this is twice as big as the install. This is twice as big as setting up 3 levels. This is possibly twice as big as that. It depends on what the expectation is, like whether you're, writing the copy or designing it versus just setting it up from a technical perspective. And then this can be pretty simple. This could be a simple 250 to 500 basic install, but when you hear Dobbin, I don't mean to contradict him at all. I think his way is the best because he knows his costs, and so he's doing that. If you don't know your costs yet, you can feel it through on these smaller chunks and then later put together big packages. But I just was throwing out those numbers to give you guys some idea. So hopefully that answers it. Sorry, I know we're over. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, that's great. And if I can kind of, jump in here on that, I don't feel like the package is so much about the package pricing as it is the scope of, generally what's included in the package. So you want to, like Dobbin and Michael were both saying, you want to get an understanding up front of what, what the vision is for your client, and then break that down into pieces so that you can then deliver something that's going to, give them some ROI on either their, time or revenue, and allow you to effectively manage the project and their expectations as you move through this process, and allow you to upsell and things like that. But yeah, I mean, do you agree, Micah? Like the pricing is not so much what the package is about as the contents or the scope of the package.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about just being able to draw some lines somewhere and create an understanding, right? Regardless of the details. Just if you guys are on the same page and, you're preventing hiccups down the road, which are much, much worse down the road rather than talking about them up front. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could just jump in here real quick, I just want to clarify something that I have seen a lot of great Membarium sites that are done at a price point that's far below what we do at Get You Wired. We just do things a certain way with a certain type of client. So these, the setting up, and when we're talking about the setting up of LearnDash, the setting up of Membarium, integration with WordPress, with Infusionsoft, all of it, all of you should be able to do very easily. It just depends on where you go with that. And ultimately, it's just our nature to sort of try and build out bigger projects out of these things. So when I give averages and I give prices, I don't want to imply that that's sort of, oh man, I don't have clients that want to spend X amount of dollars. On the contrary, I think that I've seen a lot of different membership sites and Membarium sites that have been done very cost effectively for clients that were very successful. So I was just giving examples from what works within my culture and within Get You Wired systems.
Yeah. I think it's just important to know your client and set expectations that align with what's reasonable, and also that's going to drive to getting them some results, real results. So yeah, it's there's no one size fits all in this, but the platform, membership platforms help so much with all these different possibilities. There's also well, actually, that's all the questions we have. What was that for the free license? Was that? Let me get that. Membarium.com/ICP. Cool. So I'm putting that in the chat window for you guys as well. So you can just jump on there and go and get signed up. And looks like there's an application to become a part of the Membarium family there, or how does that work exactly? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, because, yeah, what's that about?
Well, unless the link changed, I was going to say the link should just give a free license. Oh, That's the, we redirected something somewhere, I'm sorry. Wrong link.
Okay.
So there's one for
I mean, this
free
looks exciting too.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we stole that redirect. It might be ICC. It used to be there. There we go. You know, for now, go to ICC. That was an old redirect. I guess we accidentally took the new one. But if you go to ICC instead of ICP, yeah, you'll see a form, and it basically just says, hey, free license.
There we go. Cool, cool. Okay. Well, I think it might be worth checking out the other one as well. That looks really awesome. Great, great. Wow. Yeah, Davin, Micah, you guys, thank you so much for this. For me, it was very valuable, and we've got a lot of people commenting that this is really, really great stuff, and appreciate you bringing your expertise and your experience to the webinar here today. And if people have questions or would like to pick your brains a little bit more, is there a good way for folks to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, for me, if you just go to membarium.com/support, you can always, like that goes to our general support, but they can flag me down if you guys need anything. And we also have partners at membarium.com as our partner manager, and Rafaela, can help you with anything you guys are interested in.
Outstanding, outstanding. And yeah, I'm assuming probably the partner Facebook group is a good way to hit you up, Dobbin.
Partner Facebook group and www.getyouwired.com is a great way to get in. We do have a free consult option on our website. It's a great way to get in. If you request me personally, a message will actually get through to me. I do have some great staff members that are happy to answer questions regarding anything that we've talked about here or anything in general, and I try to be helpful to the partner community. So as I've said in many places, I like to make new friends, meet new people, and so feel free to reach out to me if you want a little insight into how we do things, or with Membarium, or anything for that matter. I'm open to help fellow certified partners.
Yeah, if I could just give a little shout out to Dobbin. When he and I were first talking about doing some training along these lines, I thought he might not want to share that, and he said he was totally open, and he's been totally open and very generous. So just want to thank you, Dobbin, for sharing all that, just, truth, real world information. Very cool.
Yeah, right on. Well, just so you all know, so most of my early Infusionsoft strategy was garnished, if not stolen, from Micah, because he was kind enough to give me access to one of his early membership sites. So the way that I did all of my tagging, development of early Infusionsoft strategies, and a lot of that methodology carries through to today, was because he was kind enough to share with me. So back at you, Micah.
Well, thanks, man. We're getting all lovey.
It feels so good in here right now. It's nice. I mean, that's what this is all about. This the partner community and small business community, to lift each other up. So I'm super stoked that you guys are here today, and love what you guys are doing. Above and beyond everything we're seeing here today. So really, thank you very much. Appreciate both of you guys.